The eerie silence of dawn wrapped around David Chen like a heavy blanket as he made his way through the ancient forest of the Cascade Mountains. Golden rays of early morning sunlight pierced through the towering evergreens, creating dancing shadows on the moss-covered ground beneath his feet. This serene landscape, just 2 hours from Seattle's bustling city life, had been his sanctuary for wildlife photography for the past 5 years. But today, something felt different. A disturbance in the delicate balance of nature that would change not just his life, but the lives of countless others. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The familiar weight of his camera equipment pressed against his back as David navigated the winding trail, his practiced footsteps barely making a sound on the damp earth. The crisp autumn air carried the scent of pine and decaying leaves, a perfume he had come to associate with his early morning photography expeditions. As a former wildlife rehabilitation specialist turned professional photographer, David had developed an intimate understanding of these woods and their inhabitants. Today's mission was to capture the elusive mountain goats that occasionally ventured down from the higher elevations during the early morning hours. The forecast had promised perfect conditions, overcast skies, with occasional breaks of sunlight, ideal for the kind of atmospheric shots that had made his wildlife photography blog famous. His followers eagerly anticipated his weekly posts, each one telling a story of wilderness and survival through his lens. Something felt off about the forest's rhythm. After years of studying animal behavior, David had learned to read the subtle signs of the wilderness. The usual morning chorus of birdsong was conspicuously absent, replaced by an unsettling quiet that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Even the small creatures, the squirrels and chipmunks that typically scurried about collecting their morning meals, were nowhere to be seen. David paused, adjusting the straps of his backpack while his trained eyes scanned the surrounding vegetation. The morning mist clung to the forest floor, swirling around the bases of ancient trees like ethereal fingers. He pulled out his journal, a habit formed during his days working at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, and noted the unusual silence. His documentation had helped track patterns of animal behavior in the past, contributing to local conservation efforts. The trail ahead curved around a massive Douglas fir, its trunk wider than 3 men, standing shoulder to shoulder. David had named this particular tree the Guardian years ago, using it as a landmark for his photography expeditions. As he rounded the bend, his boots crunched on something that didn't feel like the usual forest debris. Crouching down, he discovered broken glass, partially buried under leaves, fresh garbage that had no place in this pristine wilderness. Further investigation revealed more disturbing signs. The undergrowth showed signs of heavy traffic, with broken branches and trampled vegetation creating an irregular path leading away from the main trail. This wasn't the work of natural wildlife movement. The damage was too systematic, too deliberate. Drawing from his experience in wildlife rehabilitation, David recognized the telltale signs of human interference in a natural habitat. His heart rate quickened as he followed the trail of destruction. The morning fog began to lift, revealing more evidence of human activity. Rope fibers caught on bark, fresh tire tracks partially obscured by fallen leaves, and what appeared to be drag marks in the soft earth. The professional photographer in him automatically documented everything with his camera, while the wildlife specialist inside him grew increasingly concerned. The path led him deeper into an area of the forest he rarely visited. The terrain here was rougher, less accessible to the casual hiker or photographer. Massive fallen logs created natural barriers, and the undergrowth grew thicker, making navigation challenging. David checked his GPS coordinates, marking his location for future reference. He had learned the importance of detailed documentation. During his years working with law enforcement on wildlife trafficking cases, the sound came without warning, a deep, resonant moan that seemed to emanate from the earth itself. David froze, his hand instinctively reaching for his camera. The sound was unlike anything he had encountered in his years of wildlife photography. It carried notes of pain and desperation that made his stomach clench. As a former rehabilitation specialist, he had worked with injured animals before, but this sound spoke of a suffering that transcended physical pain. Moving with the stealth developed through years of wildlife photography, David followed the sound. The morning mist had mostly dissipated now, but dark clouds gathered overhead, threatening rain. The air grew heavy with moisture and anticipation. The moaning grew louder as he approached what appeared to be a small clearing ahead, his movements careful and measured, mindful of making any sound that might cause distress to whatever creature was in pain. The sight that greeted him in the clearing would be forever burned into his memory. There, chained to a massive cedar tree with industrial-grade chains, was an adult grizzly bear, the magnificent creature which should have been roaming freely. Through these mountains was bound with multiple layers of heavy chains wrapped around its body and the tree trunk. David's breath caught in his throat as his professional instincts warred with his emotional response to such blatant cruelty. Instinctively, David raised his camera, knowing that documentation would be crucial for whatever came next. The bear's condition told a story of prolonged captivity and neglect. Its normally powerful frame showed signs of malnourishment, the thick fur matted and dirty. Around its neck, a crude metal collar had worn away the fur, leaving raw, infected skin underneath. Yet what struck David most was the bear's eyes. Deep pools of intelligence that fixed upon him with an awareness that seemed almost human. The clearing itself told more of the story. The ground around the tree was torn up in a perfect circle, marking the limits of the bear's restricted movement. Empty food containers scattered nearby suggested regular feeding, but the brands were foreign, hinting at an organized operation rather than local opportunists. David's experience with wildlife trafficking cases helped him recognize the signs of a sophisticated criminal enterprise. As he carefully photographed every detail, the rain began to fall softly through the canopy. The bear watched him with remarkable calmness, showing none of the aggression one would expect from a wild animal. In distress, this behavior alone spoke volumes about what the creature had endured, a breaking of spirit that was perhaps more cruel than the physical restraints. Drawing from his rehabilitation experience, David began speaking softly, establishing a gentle presence that he hoped would bring some comfort to the trapped animal. The rain intensified, but David hardly noticed as he conducted a thorough assessment of the situation. His years of working with injured wildlife had taught him to look for signs of immediate medical needs. While the bear's condition was poor, it was stable enough that he could take the time needed to properly document everything before calling for help. Each photograph and note could be crucial in not only rescuing this animal, but potentially uncovering and stopping the larger criminal operation responsible for its captivity. As David continued his careful documentation of the scene, his trained eye caught more disturbing details that transformed this already heartbreaking discovery into something far more sinister. The ground surrounding the massive cedar tree revealed a complex story written in trampled vegetation and scattered evidence. Fresh boot prints, at least 3 distinct patterns, suggested recent human activity. These weren't the marks of casual hikers who had stumbled upon the bear. They showed purpose, regular visits, and a concerning level of organization. Drawing from his experience working with wildlife law enforcement, David recognized the methodical nature of the setup. The chains weren't randomly placed. They had been strategically wrapped to allow minimal movement, while preventing the bear from reaching any potential weaknesses in its restraints. This wasn't the work of amateurs, but rather someone with experience in handling large, dangerous animals. The morning rain intensified, creating a gentle percussion on the canopy above. Water droplets cascaded down the bear's matted fur, revealing more details about its condition. Patches of fur were missing entirely, showing scarred skin. Underneath that spoke of long-term abuse. Despite its massive size, the bear appeared significantly underweight, its powerful frame showing signs of muscle deterioration that only happened after months of restricted movement. David's mind raced with questions as he carefully circled the clearing, maintaining a respectful distance from the bear. Who would go to such lengths to keep a wild animal captive in this remote location? The sophistication of the setup suggested resources and planning beyond what local poachers typically displayed. His years documenting wildlife crimes had taught him to look for patterns, and everything here pointed to an organized operation. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The bear tracked his movements with remarkable awareness, its eyes showing an intelligence that touched something deep in David's soul. During his time at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, he had worked with numerous injured and traumatized animals, but there was something different about this bear's gaze. It held not just pain and fear, but also a profound resignation that made his heart ache. As he photographed the chains and collar, David noticed something that made his blood run cold. Small notches had been carved into the metal collar, like a macabre counting system. His experience with wildlife trafficking cases suggested these might represent events or transactions, each mark potentially indicating a time this magnificent creature had been used for some terrible purpose. The rain brought out new scents in the forest, and among them David detected something artificial: engine oil and gasoline. Following his nose, he discovered subtle tire tracks leading away from the clearing. They had been carefully concealed with scattered leaves and branches, but the rain had exposed their outline in the soft earth. This discovery confirmed his suspicions about the regular maintenance of this site. Drawing from his professional background, David began constructing a mental profile of the operation. The location had been carefully chosen, far enough from regular hiking trails to avoid casual discovery, yet accessible enough for regular visits. The tire tracks suggested vehicle access, meaning there must be an unofficial road or path nearby. This level of infrastructure pointed to a long-term operation with significant resources. Moving carefully through the wet undergrowth, David followed the tire tracks while maintaining awareness of his surroundings. His camera continuously documented everything, the weather-sealed equipment proving its worth in the increasingly heavy rain. Years of wildlife photography had taught him the importance of thorough documentation, especially in situations that might have legal implications. The tracks led him to a carefully concealed path, wide enough for an ATV or small truck. The path showed signs of regular use, with compressed earth and cleared obstacles, though efforts had been made to keep it looking natural from a distance. David's heart pounded as he realized the scale of what he was uncovering. This wasn't just about one bear. This was infrastructure for a sustained criminal operation. Following the path further, David came across something that confirmed his worst fears. Hidden under a natural overhang created by fallen trees, he found equipment that painted a disturbing picture of the operation's scope. Heavy-duty chains, similar to those binding the bear, were stored alongside tranquilizer darts and other animal control equipment. A locked metal box, partially visible under camouflage netting, suggested secure storage for documents or other valuable items. The rain had begun to ease, but thunder rumbled in the distance, promising more to come. David's experience told him he needed to act quickly but cautiously. If this was indeed part of a larger wildlife trafficking operation, those responsible would likely have security measures in place. His years working with law enforcement had taught him the importance of proper procedure in these situations. Returning to the bear, David noticed how it responded to the thunder, not with fear, but with a resigned familiarity that suggested long exposure to the elements. The creature's calm demeanor in the face of nature's fury spoke volumes about what it had endured. During his rehabilitation work, David had learned that animals often developed coping mechanisms in response to trauma, and this bear's behavior suggested a long history of adaptation to captivity. The clearing had transformed in the rain, the ground becoming increasingly muddy and treacherous. David carefully made his way closer to the bear, maintaining a respectful distance while speaking in soft, calming tones. His experience with traumatized wildlife had taught him the importance of establishing a non-threatening presence. The bear's response was remarkable. It maintained eye contact without showing any signs of aggression, suggesting previous positive interactions with humans despite its cruel circumstances. As he documented more details, David discovered something that added another layer to the mystery. Hidden among the leaves and debris were small electronic devices, motion sensors, and what appeared to be wireless cameras carefully positioned to monitor the clearing. This technology confirmed his suspicions about the sophistication of the operation and explained how the perpetrators managed to maintain their activities without detection. The combination of high-tech surveillance and brutal captivity methods painted a picture of an operation that blended modern technology with primitive cruelty. David's work with wildlife trafficking cases had shown him how these criminal enterprises often operated in this contradictory manner, using advanced equipment to facilitate ancient forms of animal exploitation. The rain nearly obscured the sound, but David's trained ear caught it, a distant engine noise, different from the regular forest sounds. His heart rate spiked as he realized the implications. Someone was coming, possibly the people responsible for this operation. Years of wildlife photography had taught him the importance of quick decisions in dangerous situations. He needed to act fast, but also smart. With the distant sound of engines growing closer, David made a split-second decision that would alter the course of many lives. Drawing from his years of wildlife photography experience, he quickly found a concealed position that offered both coverage and a clear view of the clearing. His heart raced as he switched his camera to video mode, knowing that documenting what was about to unfold could be crucial for bringing justice to this situation. From his hidden vantage point behind a massive fallen log covered in thick moss, David watched as two ATVs emerged from the concealed path. The vehicles moved with practiced precision, their drivers clearly familiar with the terrain. 3 men dismounted, their movements suggesting they had no idea they were being watched. David's hands remained steady as he filmed, his years of wildlife photography helping him maintain focus despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The men's behavior revealed a disturbing familiarity with their operation. They moved with the confidence of routine, checking the chains and surveillance equipment with practiced efficiency. Their conversation, though muffled by distance and the lingering thunder, carried tones of business discussion rather than any concern for the magnificent creature they had imprisoned. One man, clearly the leader based on how the others deferred to him, approached the bear with a casual arrogance that made David's blood boil. The bear's reaction was telling. It showed no fear, but rather a resigned recognition that spoke of long-term conditioning. The man carried what appeared to be medical supplies, suggesting some level of veterinary knowledge, though his rough handling of the bear revealed his true nature. As David continued filming, the men's activities painted a clearer picture of their operation. They checked and adjusted the surveillance equipment, replaced memory cards in the cameras, and administered what appeared to be some kind of injection to the bear. Their methodical approach suggested this was part of a well-established routine, likely preparing the bear for some kind of event. The leader pulled out a satellite phone, his voice carrying clearly in a moment of silence between thunder rolls. The conversation, though brief, contained phrases that made David's investigative instincts fire on all cylinders. References to fight night and betting pools suggested something far darker than simple wildlife trafficking. This magnificent creature wasn't just being held captive, it was being used for illegal animal fighting. David's experience with wildlife rehabilitation had shown him the aftermath of animal fighting rings, but never had he been this close to an active operation. His mind raced with the implications. The sophisticated setup, the regular medical care, the betting references, all pointed to a large-scale criminal enterprise that extended far beyond these woods. As he documented the scene, David noticed something that hadn't been visible before. One of the men was setting up what appeared to be streaming equipment. Small professional-grade cameras and a satellite uplink system. The technology suggested this operation had international reach, likely broadcasting their cruel events to betting audiences worldwide. The rain had nearly stopped, but the dark clouds lingered, creating an appropriately ominous atmosphere. The men worked for almost an hour, their activities revealing more about their operation with each passing minute. They tested the streaming equipment, adjusted the bear's restraints, and discussed what seemed to be transportation arrangements for an upcoming event. Drawing from his knowledge of wildlife behavior, David could see the subtle signs of distress in the bear, despite its outward calm. Small changes in its breathing pattern, slight shifts in muscle tension, all indicated that these men's presence caused significant stress to the animal, even if it had learned not to show it overtly. When the men finally departed, the sound of their ATVs fading into the distance, David remained motionless for several more minutes. His years of wildlife photography had taught him the importance of patience and caution. Once certain they were gone, He emerged from his hiding place, his mind already formulating a plan. The evidence he had gathered was explosive: high-resolution photographs, video footage of the men's activities, and clear audio of their conversations about illegal gambling operations. But David knew from his experience with wildlife trafficking cases that evidence alone wasn't enough. This operation was too sophisticated, too well-funded to be brought down without careful planning. Approaching the bear again, David noticed how it seemed to recognize him as different from its captors. The animal's eyes held a certain awareness that touched him deeply. During his years of rehabilitation work, he had learned that animals could sense intention, and this bear seemed to understand that he meant to help. As he conducted a more thorough examination of the clearing, David discovered something that added urgency to the situation. Hidden among the equipment the men had left behind was a schedule, dates and locations written in code, but clear enough to suggest that this bear was due to be moved soon, possibly within the next 24 hours. The complexity of the situation demanded immediate but careful action. Based on his experience with wildlife crime cases, David knew that rushing in without proper support could not only fail to save this bear, but could also alert the criminals, allowing them to destroy evidence and move their operation elsewhere. He needed to handle this strategically. Using his satellite phone, a necessity for his remote photography work, David made two crucial calls. The first was to his former colleague at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, Dr. Sarah Martinez, who had connections with state wildlife authorities and specialized in large predator care. The second call was to his contact in the FBI's Environmental Crimes Division, Agent Michael Thompson, whom he had worked with on previous trafficking cases. While waiting for responses, David continued documenting the scene, paying particular attention to details that might help identify the perpetrators. His trained eye caught subtle clues: distinctive marks on the equipment, specific brands of medical supplies, unique patterns in how they had set up their operation. Each detail could potentially help build a case against these criminals. The bear watched his activities with what seemed like understanding, its powerful presence a reminder of what was at stake. Despite its condition, the animal maintained a dignity that moved David deeply. In his years of wildlife work, he had never encountered a creature that so perfectly embodied both the majesty of nature and the tragedy of human cruelty. As the afternoon wore on, David began receiving responses to his calls. A plan was taking shape, one that would require precision, timing, and coordination between multiple agencies. The evidence he had gathered would be crucial in obtaining the necessary warrants and organizing a coordinated response. The approaching evening brought new challenges. David knew he couldn't leave the bear unprotected, knowing what he now knew about the operation. Yet he also understood that maintaining his hidden presence was crucial to the success of any rescue operation. His years of wildlife photography had taught him how to remain undetected in the wilderness, a skill that would now serve a higher purpose. In the growing darkness, David carefully set up a hidden observation post, using his experience to find a position that would allow him to monitor the clearing while remaining undetected. The bear's presence was a constant reminder of the urgency of his mission, its quiet strength inspiring him to maintain his vigilance despite the challenging conditions. As darkness settled over the forest, David's makeshift observation post became a command center for what would become one of the largest wildlife trafficking busts in the state's history. His satellite phone buzzed with incoming messages from Agent Thompson, Confirming that federal agents were mobilizing, Dr. Martinez had also responded, assembling a specialized veterinary team experienced in treating traumatized wildlife. The night brought new revelations about the sophistication of the criminal operation. Through his night vision equipment, standard gear for his wildlife photography, David observed automated feeding systems activating at precise intervals. The technology suggested this wasn't just a local operation, but part of a larger, well-funded criminal enterprise that had industrialized animal exploitation. Around midnight, unexpected movement caught his attention. A new group of visitors arrived at the clearing, their approach more cautious than the previous group. These individuals carried different equipment, professional camera gear and what appeared to be betting ledgers. David's heart raced as he realized he was witnessing the setup for an illegal live stream, likely preparing for the upcoming fight they had mentioned earlier. Through his telephoto lens, David captured clear images of these new arrivals, noting distinct features that could help identify them. Their behavior revealed a hierarchy, some giving orders, others following them with practiced efficiency. One man, wearing an expensive watch that gleamed in the moonlight, appeared to be conducting a site inspection, perhaps representing investors or high-stakes gamblers. The bear's reaction to these nighttime visitors provided new insights into its captivity. Despite the late hour, the animal remained alert, its behavior suggesting it had been conditioned to expect activity at any time. This observation added another layer of cruelty to its captivity. Even its natural sleep patterns had been disrupted to serve its captor's purposes. Using a small directional microphone, another tool from his wildlife photography kit, David managed to capture fragments of conversation that proved invaluable. The men discussed upcoming events in multiple locations, revealing that this operation extended beyond this single bear. Their casual mentions of other captive animals and fighting venues painted a picture of a vast underground network. As the night progressed, David witnessed something that both horrified and strengthened his resolve. The men conducted what appeared to be a test broadcast, setting up portable lights that harshly illuminated the clearing. The bear's dignity in the face of this intrusion was heartbreaking. It remained stoic, its eyes reflecting a wisdom and resilience that transcended its circumstances. Around 3 a.m., Dr. Martinez sent a crucial update. Her team had secured an emergency sanctuary placement for the bear at a state-of-the-art facility in Montana. This sanctuary specialized in rehabilitating animals rescued from trafficking operations, offering both physical and psychological recovery programs. The facility's expertise would be essential for helping this bear recover from its trauma. The pre-dawn hours brought more developments. Agent Thompson confirmed that federal and state warrants were being expedited and a joint task force was assembling nearby. The operation would need to be perfectly timed. Too early, and they might miss key players. Too late, and the bear might be moved to another location. David's years of observing wildlife had taught him to read subtle signs in animal behavior, and he noticed something remarkable. Despite its captivity, the bear maintained an awareness of its surroundings that spoke to its unbroken spirit. Each time the criminal operators appeared, it displayed a kind of calculated compliance rather than genuine submission, as if it were biding its time, preserving its strength. As morning approached, David observed the bear performing small exercises within its limited range of movement, stretching what muscles it could, maintaining what strength remained. This display of resilience touched him deeply. Even in captivity, the animal's instinct for survival manifested in these small acts of self-preservation. The first light of dawn brought new activity to the clearing. The criminal operators returned, this time with more equipment and what appeared to be promotional materials for their illegal enterprise. David's documentation of their activities would prove crucial for understanding the full scope of their operation and ensuring maximum charges could be filed. Using his expertise in wildlife behavior, David noted how the bear's demeanor changed subtly with each group of visitors. It showed signs of stress around certain individuals, but remained remarkably calm around others, suggesting it had learned to identify those who treated it with varying degrees of cruelty. This intelligence and adaptability, even in captivity, demonstrated the remarkable cognitive abilities of these magnificent creatures. As the morning progressed, David received confirmation that the rescue operation was ready to launch. Federal agents had positioned themselves strategically around the area, while Dr. Martinez's team waited nearby with specialized transport equipment. The plan was comprehensive. Not only would they rescue this bear, but they would also gather enough evidence to dismantle the entire trafficking network. The operation's timing would be crucial. The criminal operators had unwittingly revealed their schedule through their preparations, giving law enforcement a perfect opportunity to catch them in the act. David's documentation would prove invaluable in court, providing clear evidence of the operation's scale and sophistication. Through his lens, David captured the arrival of more participants in the illegal operation. Each person's role became clear through their actions. Some handled logistics, others managed betting operations, and a few appeared to be wealthy spectators arriving early for the event. Their presence confirmed the international nature of this criminal enterprise. The bear's behavior during these preparations revealed its remarkable adaptability. It had learned to navigate its captivity while maintaining its essential nature, a testament to the resilience of wildlife even in the face of human cruelty. This observation would later prove valuable for developing rehabilitation strategies for other rescued animals. As the morning wore on, David noticed increased activity around the surveillance equipment. The operators were setting up additional cameras and testing streaming connections, unwittingly providing more evidence of their sophisticated operation. Their focus on technology demonstrated how modern criminal enterprises had evolved to exploit global markets. The bear's presence throughout this activity remained a powerful reminder of what was at stake. Despite its captivity, it maintained a dignity that emphasized the importance of preserving wildlife in its natural state. Its ability to endure while maintaining its essential nature would later inspire conservation efforts across the region. David's documentation captured every detail of the operation's final preparations. Each photograph and video would serve multiple purposes: as evidence for prosecution, as documentation for wildlife protection agencies, and as a powerful testament to the need for stronger enforcement of wildlife protection laws. The tension in the air reached its peak as federal agents moved into position around the clearing. David's heart pounded as he watched the operation unfold through his camera lens, knowing that the next few moments would determine not just this bear's fate, but potentially impact wildlife trafficking operations worldwide. The morning sun cast long shadows through the trees, creating a dramatic backdrop for what was about to unfold. Agent Thompson's team had synchronized their movements with precision, using David's detailed documentation of the site to plan their approach. Through his viewfinder, David observed specialized units taking up strategic positions, their movements careful and deliberate to avoid triggering the criminals' surveillance systems. The sophistication of their approach reflected months of experience dealing with wildlife trafficking operations. The criminal operators, unaware of the closing net around them, continued their preparations for the day's planned events. They moved with the confidence of those who believed their operation was undetectable, their actions becoming evidence that would later prove crucial in court. The bear, somehow sensing the change in atmosphere, maintained a watchful alertness that spoke to its undiminished intelligence. Dr. Martinez and her veterinary team had positioned their specialized transport vehicle nearby, hidden from view, but ready to move at a moment's notice. Their preparation included not just medical supplies, but also carefully planned rehabilitation protocols specific to bears rescued from captivity. Their presence represented hope, not just for this bear, but for countless other animals trapped in similar situations. The raid began with stunning swiftness. Federal agents emerged simultaneously from multiple positions, their coordinated movement catching the criminals completely off guard. David's camera captured every moment, the looks of shock on the perpetrators' faces, their futile attempts to destroy evidence, and the professional efficiency of the law enforcement team. As the agents secured the scene, David witnessed something remarkable. The bear, which had shown such resigned compliance to its captors, displayed a new awareness. Its posture changed subtly, as if recognizing that these new arrivals represented something different. Dr. Martinez later explained that animals often possess an intuitive understanding of human intentions, able to sense the difference between those who mean harm and those who offer help. The operation revealed layers of criminality beyond what anyone had expected. As agents secured the suspects, they discovered documentation revealing connections to wildlife trafficking operations across 3 continents. The sophisticated betting operation they uncovered would later lead to investigations into international gambling syndicates specializing in illegal wildlife fighting. David's role shifted from observer to active participant as he shared his documentation with the authorities. His photographs and videos provided crucial evidence not just of the immediate crime, but of the operation's broader scope. The quality and detail of his documentation would later prove instrumental in securing convictions against the operation's leadership. Dr. Martinez's team approached the bear with careful precision. Their expertise in handling traumatized wildlife became evident as they worked to gain the animal's trust. The bear's response to their gentle approach was remarkable. Though still cautious, it showed none of the defensive behavior typical of wild animals in such situations. The process of freeing the bear from its restraints became a powerful symbol of liberation. Each chain removed represented not just physical freedom, but the breaking of bonds that had held this magnificent creature in captivity. The veterinary team worked methodically, documenting each injury and sign of abuse, building a medical history that would support both the bear's rehabilitation and the legal case against its captors. As the last chain fell away, a profound silence fell over. The clearing, the bear, though free of its physical restraints, remained still, as if processing its new reality. This moment of transition would later be described by Dr. Martinez as crucial in understanding how captive animals begin their journey back to their natural state. The bear's first moments of freedom were captured by David's camera, creating images that would later become symbols in the fight against wildlife trafficking. The animal's cautious exploration of its expanded space, its tentative steps beyond the worn circle it had been confined to, spoke volumes about both the cruelty of its captivity and the possibility of recovery. During the initial medical assessment, Dr. Martinez discovered evidence of systematic abuse that went beyond physical restraint. The bear had been subjected to various drugs to control its behavior, its diet had been manipulated to maintain fighting weight, and it showed signs of forced participation in multiple fighting events. These findings would later contribute to strengthening laws against wildlife exploitation. The process of preparing the bear for transport revealed more about its remarkable character. Despite years of abuse, it showed an extraordinary capacity for trust, allowing the veterinary team to administer necessary medications and perform initial treatments. This resilience would later become a cornerstone of studies into wildlife rehabilitation. As the specialized transport vehicle was prepared, David had an opportunity to observe the bear's behavior more closely. Its interactions with the veterinary team showed glimpses of its natural intelligence and adaptability. These observations would later contribute to developing new protocols for rehabilitating trafficked wildlife. The moment of loading the bear into the transport vehicle became a celebration of sorts. Law enforcement, veterinary staff, and even some of the hardened federal agents found themselves moved by the significance of the moment. This wasn't just about saving one bear. It represented a strike against the entire wildlife trafficking industry. Throughout the process, David continued documenting everything, knowing that the story of this bear's rescue could help raise awareness about wildlife trafficking. His photographs captured not just the technical aspects of the rescue, but also the emotional journey, from captivity to the first steps toward freedom. The evidence collected from the scene painted a picture of systematic cruelty that extended far beyond this single location. The documentation revealed a network of similar operations, each exploiting wildlife for profit. This discovery would later lead to a series of international investigations and reforms in wildlife protection laws. As the transport vehicle prepared to depart, David noticed something remarkable about the bear's demeanor. Despite the chaos of the raid and the stress of being handled by strangers, it maintained a dignity that seemed to transcend its circumstances. This observation would later feature prominently in educational materials about wildlife conservation and animal intelligence. The journey to the sanctuary began with hope and determination. The specialized transport vehicle, equipped with monitoring equipment and staffed by experienced wildlife veterinarians, represented the beginning of a new chapter. The bear's story would not end with rescue. It was just beginning its journey toward rehabilitation and a life of dignity. The impact of this rescue operation would ripple through the wildlife protection community. The evidence gathered would lead to improved methods for detecting and preventing wildlife trafficking. The bear's story would become a catalyst for change, inspiring new approaches to wildlife protection and rehabilitation. As David watched the transport vehicle disappear down the forest road, he reflected on the transformative power of compassion and justice working together. This rescue represented more than saving one animal. It symbolized humanity's capacity to right its wrongs and protect the natural world that sustains us all. The journey to the Montana Wildlife Sanctuary marked the beginning of an extraordinary Transformation. The specialized transport vehicle, equipped with state-of-the-art monitoring systems, wound its way through mountain roads, while Dr. Martinez and her team kept constant watch over their precious cargo. Inside, the bear remained remarkably calm, its steady breathing monitored by sensors that transmitted real-time data to the veterinary team. The sanctuary itself represented the pinnacle of wildlife rehabilitation. Nestled in a remote valley, surrounded by pristine wilderness, its 500 acres provided a carefully designed environment for animals recovering from trauma. As the transport vehicle approached, staff members prepared a specially constructed rehabilitation enclosure designed to help the bear transition from captivity to a more natural environment. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the sanctuary's lead behaviorist, waited at the entrance. Her decades of experience working with traumatized wildlife had taught her that the first moments in a new environment were crucial. The unloading process would need to be handled with extraordinary care, balancing the bear's immediate medical needs with its psychological well-being. The sanctuary's innovative approach to rehabilitation became evident as they prepared for the bear's arrival. Instead of traditional holding facilities, they had created a graduated series of enclosures that would allow the bear to progress at its own pace. Each space incorporated natural elements, trees, rocks, and streams that would help awaken its instinctive behaviors. As the bear was carefully transferred to its initial rehabilitation space, David's camera captured moments that would later become iconic in wildlife conservation. The animal's first steps into its new environment showed a mixture of caution and curiosity. Despite years of captivity, its natural instincts remained intact, emerging like dormant seeds awakening in spring. The sanctuary's medical facility revealed the full extent of the bear's condition. Advanced imaging showed old fractures that had healed poorly, muscle atrophy from restricted movement, and dental issues from improper nutrition. Yet amid these signs of neglect, the veterinary team found something remarkable. The bear's will to heal remained unbroken. Dr. Martinez's initial assessment painted a picture of both tragedy and hope. While the physical wounds were severe, the bear's vital signs showed surprising strength. Blood tests revealed that despite the trauma, its organ function remained strong, a testament to the remarkable resilience of nature. This discovery would later influence protocols for treating other rescued wildlife. The sanctuary's rehabilitation program unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony. Each day brought new challenges and victories as the bear began its journey back to health. The first major breakthrough came during feeding time. Instead of waiting passively for food, the bear showed interest in foraging through naturally scattered provisions, a vital sign of returning to instinctive behaviors. David's documentation of the rehabilitation process captured moments that would later revolutionize wildlife rescue practices. The bear's response to enrichment activities, its growing confidence in exploring its environment, and its interactions with the rehabilitation team provided invaluable insights into the recovery potential of trafficked animals. One particularly moving moment occurred during the bear's first exposure to a natural water feature. After years of being denied the ability to swim, its instinctive response to water remained intact. The joy and freedom expressed as it entered the pool brought tears to the eyes of even the most experienced staff members. This moment would later become a symbol of nature's enduring spirit. The sanctuary's approach to psychological rehabilitation proved groundbreaking. Instead of forcing interactions, they allowed the bear to set the pace of its recovery. Natural behaviors began to emerge: digging, climbing, and scent marking, each one celebrated as a sign of returning wildness. The bear's progress challenged traditional timelines for wildlife rehabilitation. As weeks turned into months, the bear's physical transformation became evident. Its coat regained its natural shine, muscles rebuilt through increased activity, and the wounds from its chains began to heal. More remarkable was its behavioral evolution, from a creature conditioned by captivity to one that increasingly expressed its natural character. The sanctuary's research team documented every aspect of the bear's recovery, creating a comprehensive study that would benefit future rehabilitation efforts. Their findings highlighted the importance of allowing rescued animals to reconnect with their instincts at their own pace. This approach would later be adopted by wildlife centers worldwide. David's regular visits to document the bear's progress revealed subtle but significant changes. The fear and resignation once visible in its eyes had been replaced by a growing confidence. Its movements, initially hesitant and restricted, became more fluid and purposeful. Each photograph told a story of healing and renewal. The bear's journey inspired changes in the sanctuary's approach to rehabilitation. Its response to various enrichment activities led to the development of new programs specifically designed for trafficked wildlife. The success of these methods would later influence global standards for wildlife recovery and reintegration. As the bear's strength returned, it began showing interest in the world beyond its immediate environment. The sanctuary's observation platforms allowed staff to monitor its growing curiosity about the surrounding wilderness. Natural behaviors, long suppressed by captivity, emerged with increasing frequency. The most profound transformation occurred in the bear's interaction with its environment. What began as tentative exploration evolved into confident interaction with its surroundings. The bear started creating its own paths through its enclosure, establishing territories and engaging in natural behaviors that had been denied during its captivity. The sanctuary's success with this case attracted attention from wildlife rehabilitation experts worldwide. The bear's recovery challenged existing assumptions about the rehabilitation potential of animals rescued from long-term captivity. Its progress became a source of hope for similar cases around the globe. David's documentation culminated in a series of photographs that would become powerful tools in the fight against wildlife trafficking. These images, showing the bear's journey from chains to freedom, would later be used in international conservation campaigns, educational programs, and legal proceedings against wildlife traffickers. The bear's story reached beyond the sanctuary's boundaries, inspiring changed attitudes toward wildlife protection. Local schools began incorporating its recovery journey into their environmental education programs. Children learned about wildlife conservation through the lens of this remarkable story of resilience and renewal. As the rehabilitation progressed, the sanctuary staff observed something extraordinary. The bear began teaching them. Its responses to various rehabilitation techniques provided insights into natural bear behavior that would prove valuable for future rescue operations. The student had become the teacher, showing humans how to better understand and protect wildlife. The legal aftermath of the bear's rescue unfolded like a powerful wave, touching shores far beyond the Montana sanctuary. Federal prosecutors, armed with David's extensive documentation and evidence gathered during the raid, began building a case that would expose the dark underbelly of international wildlife trafficking. The investigation revealed connections to organized crime networks spanning 3 continents, turning what began as a single bear's rescue into one of the most significant wildlife crime cases in recent history. Agent Thompson's team discovered that the operation's reach extended far beyond illegal animal fights. Financial records seized during the raid exposed a complex web of money laundering, illegal gambling, and endangered species trafficking. The discovery of encrypted communications revealed that the bear's captors were part of a sophisticated criminal enterprise that had been operating undetected for nearly a decade. As the investigation deepened, David's involvement took an unexpected turn. His expertise in wildlife behavior and professional documentation skills made him a valuable consultant for the prosecution team. His photographs and videos, combined with his understanding of animal behavior, helped investigators decode the operation's methods and identify other potential trafficking locations. The evidence painted a disturbing picture of systematic exploitation. Detailed records showed that the operation had processed millions of dollars through illegal wildlife fighting events, with wealthy clients paying premium prices to witness and bet on brutal animal encounters. The discovery of similar operations in other locations led to coordinated raids across multiple states. The prosecution's case was strengthened by innovative use of technology. Forensic analysts extracted data from the surveillance equipment found at the site, revealing an extensive network of online betting platforms and cryptocurrency transactions. This digital evidence provided crucial links between local operators and international criminal organizations. The trial itself became a landmark case in wildlife protection law. Prosecutors used David's photographs and videos to create a compelling narrative that moved beyond dry legal arguments to show the real impact of wildlife trafficking on living creatures. The bear's story became a powerful symbol of both the cruelty of animal exploitation and the possibility of redemption through human intervention. Expert testimony from Dr. Martinez and the sanctuary staff provided crucial context about the physical and psychological impact of wildlife trafficking. Their detailed documentation of the bear's injuries and recovery process helped establish new legal precedents for considering animal welfare in trafficking cases. Their testimony highlighted the sophisticated nature of modern wildlife crime and the need for stronger enforcement measures. The courtroom proceedings revealed shocking details about the operation's scope. Financial records showed connections to illegal wildlife trades in Asia and Eastern Europe, with evidence of endangered species being trafficked through seemingly legitimate business fronts. The case exposed how wildlife trafficking had evolved into a highly organized criminal enterprise. As the trial progressed, something remarkable happened. The bear's story began capturing public attention, drawing crowds to the courthouse and media coverage from around the world. What started as a criminal proceeding transformed into a catalyst for public awareness about wildlife trafficking. People who had never considered the issue found themselves moved by the bear's journey from captivity to recovery. The prosecution team made innovative use of David's documentation, time-lapse sequences showing the bear's physical transformation at the sanctuary provided powerful evidence of the impact of trafficking on wildlife. These images, contrasted with photos from the rescue, helped jurors understand the full scope of the crime's impact. The defense's attempts to minimize the Significance of animal welfare in the case backfired dramatically. Expert testimony about animal cognition and emotional capacity, supported by documentation of the bear's rehabilitation, challenged traditional legal views about wildlife. The case began setting new precedents for how the justice system considered crimes against animals. The international implications of the case grew as evidence emerged of similar operations in other countries. Diplomatic channels opened as law enforcement agencies worldwide began sharing information about wildlife trafficking networks. The bear's case became a template for international cooperation in combating wildlife crime. The trial's impact extended beyond the courtroom. Legislative bodies began reviewing and strengthening wildlife protection laws. The case highlighted gaps in existing regulations and sparked discussions about increasing penalties for wildlife trafficking. Lawmakers who had previously viewed wildlife crime as a minor issue began understanding its connections to organized crime and international security. Meanwhile, the sanctuary continued documenting the bear's recovery, providing regular updates that were incorporated into the trial proceedings. Each milestone in its rehabilitation strengthened the prosecution's argument about the severe impact of trafficking on wildlife. The bear's progress became living testimony to both the cruelty of its captivity and the possibility of recovery. As the trial neared its conclusion, the prosecution presented a comprehensive overview of the operation's impact. Financial records revealed profits exceeding $50 million from illegal wildlife fighting events. Evidence showed connections to dozens of similar operations worldwide, with hundreds of animals trafficked through their network. The verdict, when it came, was groundbreaking. The principal defendants received unprecedented sentences for wildlife trafficking charges, setting new standards for prosecuting these crimes. The judge's ruling emphasized the sophisticated nature of modern wildlife crime and the need for serious consequences to deter similar operations. Asset forfeiture proceedings resulted in millions of dollars being directed toward wildlife conservation efforts. Properties and equipment used in the trafficking operation were seized and repurposed for wildlife protection programs. The case established new precedents for using criminal proceeds to fund conservation initiatives. The legal victory sparked changes in how law enforcement approached wildlife crime. New specialized units were created, focusing specifically on investigating and prosecuting wildlife trafficking cases. Training programs were developed to help officers recognize signs of organized wildlife crime and respond effectively. The case's impact rippled through international law enforcement communities. Agencies worldwide began adopting protocols developed during the investigation, creating more effective networks for combating wildlife trafficking. The bear's case became a model for international cooperation in wildlife protection efforts. Perhaps most significantly, the case changed public perception of wildlife trafficking. No longer viewed as a minor environmental issue, it became recognized as a serious crime with connections to international criminal networks. The bear's story helped people understand the real impact of wildlife exploitation and the importance of protection efforts. The successful prosecution led to the creation of new wildlife protection initiatives. Government agencies and conservation organizations developed improved methods for detecting and preventing wildlife trafficking. The case demonstrated the effectiveness of coordinated efforts between law enforcement, wildlife experts, and conservation groups. 1 year after the rescue, the Montana Wildlife Sanctuary hosted a remarkable event that would transform the landscape of wildlife conservation. The bear, now known as Spirit for its indomitable will, had become an ambassador for wildlife protection in ways no one could have predicted. International conservation leaders gathered to witness the unveiling of a groundbreaking rehabilitation program inspired by Spirit's remarkable recovery journey. The sanctuary had evolved into a global center for wildlife rehabilitation innovation. Dr. Rodriguez's team had developed new therapeutic approaches based on their observations of Spirit's healing process. Their methods challenged traditional rehabilitation timelines, showing that even severely traumatized animals could recover their natural behaviors when given the right environment and support. David's photographic documentation of Spirit's transformation gained recognition beyond wildlife conservation circles. His images were featured in a traveling exhibition titled "From Chains to Freedom," which opened at the Smithsonian before touring internationally. The exhibition sparked conversations about wildlife protection in communities worldwide, transforming public understanding of trafficking's impact on individual animals. The sanctuary's research team made groundbreaking discoveries about animal cognition through their work with Spirit. They observed complex problem-solving abilities and emotional intelligence that exceeded previous understanding of bear behavior. Spirit demonstrated an extraordinary capacity for trust-building with his caregivers while maintaining his wild nature, a balance that would influence future rehabilitation protocols. Educational programs flourished around Spirit's story. Local schools developed curriculum units that used his journey to teach children about wildlife conservation, empathy, and environmental responsibility. Students who visited the sanctuary witnessed firsthand how human compassion could heal the wounds of exploitation, inspiring a new generation of conservation advocates. Spirit's rehabilitation area evolved into a model for natural enrichment. The sanctuary team created increasingly complex environments that challenged his problem-solving abilities and encouraged natural behaviors. His response to these enrichments provided valuable insights into bear cognition and the importance of mental stimulation in rehabilitation. International wildlife organizations began adopting the sanctuary's rehabilitation methods. The Spirit Protocol, as it became known, emphasized the importance of allowing rescued animals to rediscover their natural behaviors at their own pace. This approach proved successful with various species, demonstrating the universal principles underlying effective wildlife rehabilitation. The sanctuary's success attracted support from unexpected quarters. Technology companies developed new tracking and monitoring systems based on the needs identified during Spirit's rehabilitation. These innovations improved the ability to study wildlife behavior non-invasively, advancing both rehabilitation efforts and wild population research. Spirit's story inspired changes in corporate responsibility practices. Companies began scrutinizing their supply chains for connections to wildlife trafficking, and several major corporations established funds for wildlife protection initiatives. The business community's engagement brought new resources and expertise to conservation efforts. The sanctuary's volunteer program expanded dramatically, drawing people from around the world who wanted to contribute to wildlife rehabilitation. Spirit's presence provided unique opportunities for volunteers to learn about bear behavior and conservation. Many participants went on to careers in wildlife protection, spreading the sanctuary's philosophy globally. Research conducted at the sanctuary led to breakthroughs in understanding post-traumatic stress in animals. Spirit's recovery process revealed parallels between human and animal trauma responses, contributing to the development of more effective rehabilitation techniques for all species. This research bridged gaps between human and veterinary medicine in treating trauma. Conservation organizations began incorporating Spirit's story into their advocacy work. His journey from victim to ambassador demonstrated the impact of wildlife, trafficking on individual animals while offering hope for recovery. This narrative proved powerful in mobilizing public support for stronger protection measures. The sanctuary established partnerships with indigenous communities known for their traditional knowledge of bear behavior. These collaborations led to innovative rehabilitation techniques that combined modern science with ancestral wisdom. Spirit's case demonstrated the value of integrating different approaches to wildlife conservation. Artists and writers found inspiration in Spirit's story. Children's books, documentaries, and artistic works spread his message to diverse audiences. These creative interpretations helped people connect emotionally with wildlife conservation issues, building broader support for protection efforts. Spirit's influence extended to law enforcement training. His case provided valuable insights into detecting and investigating wildlife trafficking operations. Officers learned to recognize signs of animal exploitation and understand the sophisticated nature of trafficking networks. The sanctuary developed new approaches to public education about wildlife rehabilitation. Carefully designed observation areas allowed visitors to witness rehabilitation work without disturbing the animals. This transparency helped build public understanding and support for wildlife protection efforts. The Spirit Scholarship was established to support research in wildlife rehabilitation and conservation. This program funded studies ranging from animal behavior to trafficking prevention, creating a legacy of scientific advancement in wildlife protection. Spirit's story influenced international policy discussions about wildlife trafficking. Diplomats and policymakers who visited the sanctuary gained first-hand understanding of trafficking's impact, leading to stronger international cooperation in wildlife protection efforts. The sanctuary's success with Spirit led to the development of a global network of rehabilitation centers. These facilities shared knowledge and resources, creating a more effective international system for rehabilitating trafficked wildlife. Spirit's case demonstrated the importance of collaboration in wildlife protection. Media coverage of Spirit's rehabilitation sparked public interest in wildlife conservation. Regular updates about his progress kept attention focused on trafficking issues, maintaining pressure for continued improvements in wildlife protection measures. As Spirit's second year at the sanctuary approached, his story continued inspiring positive changes in wildlife conservation. His journey from victim to ambassador demonstrated the resilience of nature and the power of human compassion to heal even the deepest wounds. The ripple effects of his rescue transformed not just individual lives, but the entire field of wildlife protection. 2 years into Spirit's rehabilitation, a groundbreaking development emerged that would revolutionize wildlife conservation forever. The sanctuary team discovered that Spirit had developed an extraordinary ability to help rehabilitate other rescued bears. His presence had a calming effect on newly arrived animals, particularly those rescued from trafficking situations. This unexpected development led to the creation of the Ambassador Program, a pioneering approach to wildlife rehabilitation. The program's first success came with the arrival of Luna, a female bear rescued from an illegal circus in Eastern Europe. Initially withdrawn and aggressive, Luna's behavior transformed remarkably when housed in an enclosure adjacent to spirits. Through careful observation, the sanctuary team documented how spirits' calm demeanor and natural behaviors served as a model for Luna's rehabilitation. David returned to the sanctuary to document this unprecedented phenomenon. His photographs captured remarkable moments of interaction between spirit and other bears, subtle communications through body language that helped traumatized animals rediscover their natural behaviors. These images would later become part of a groundbreaking study on social learning in rehabilitated wildlife. Dr. Rodriguez and her team developed new theories about bear cognition based on spirits' interactions with other rescued animals. They observed how he seemed to understand which behaviors would help calm frightened newcomers, adjusting his actions based on each animal's specific needs. This level of emotional intelligence challenged existing beliefs about bear psychology. The sanctuary expanded its facilities to accommodate what they called the spirit effect. New rehabilitation areas were designed to allow rescued bears to observe spirits' natural behaviors while maintaining safe distances. This innovative approach significantly reduced rehabilitation times for newly rescued animals, as they learned by example rather than through direct human intervention. International researchers flocked to the sanctuary to study this phenomenon. Spirits' ability to facilitate the rehabilitation of other bears became the subject of numerous scientific papers, leading to new understanding of social learning in wild animals. His influence extended beyond bears as researchers began observing similar patterns in other species' rehabilitation. The sanctuary's success led to the development of new protocols for wildlife rehabilitation centers worldwide. The Spirit method emphasized the importance of having successfully rehabilitated animals serve as behavioral models for newcomers. This approach proved particularly effective with animals rescued from similar trafficking situations. Conservation. Organizations began incorporating lessons learned from Spirit's case into their broader wildlife protection strategies. The understanding that rehabilitated animals could play active roles in helping others recover led to new approaches in wildlife. Sanctuary design and management. Spirit's legacy was transforming how humans approached wildlife rehabilitation. Educational programs at the sanctuary evolved to include lessons about animal emotional intelligence and social learning. School groups witnessed firsthand how Spirit's presence helped other bears recover, learning valuable lessons about empathy and the complexity of animal relationships. These experiences created powerful connections between young people and wildlife conservation. The sanctuary's research team made another remarkable discovery regarding Spirit's influence on wild bears. Through carefully monitored interactions, they observed that wild bears visiting the sanctuary's periphery showed interest in Spirit's behaviors, suggesting his influence extended beyond captive rehabilitation. Technology played a crucial role in documenting these developments. Advanced monitoring systems captured subtle interactions between Spirit and other bears, providing valuable data for research. This technology revealed patterns of communication and social learning that had never been documented in bears before. The Ambassador Program's success attracted attention from behavioral scientists studying trauma recovery. Parallels between Spirit's role in bear rehabilitation and therapy animals' work with humans led to new insights into the universal nature of trauma and healing. These findings influenced both wildlife rehabilitation and human psychological treatment. Spirit's impact extended to policy development as well. His success in helping other bears recover became a powerful argument for protecting and rehabilitating trafficked wildlife. Policymakers who witnessed the ambassador program firsthand became strong advocates for increased funding for wildlife rehabilitation efforts. The sanctuary developed new training programs for wildlife rehabilitation professionals based on insights gained from Spirit's case. These programs emphasized the importance of understanding social learning in wildlife recovery and taught techniques for facilitating animal-to-animal rehabilitation support. International cooperation in wildlife protection strengthened as the Ambassador Program gained recognition. Rehabilitation centers worldwide began implementing similar approaches, creating a network of facilities where rehabilitated animals could help others recover. This movement represented a significant evolution in wildlife conservation practices. Media coverage of Spirit's role as an ambassador generated unprecedented public interest in wildlife rehabilitation. His story demonstrated that rescued animals could become active participants in conservation efforts, changing public perception of wildlife rehabilitation from a passive to an active process. The sanctuary's volunteer program expanded to include specialized training in social learning. Observation. Volunteers learned to document subtle interactions between Spirit and other bears, contributing valuable data to ongoing research while gaining unique insights into animal behavior and rehabilitation. Corporate support for wildlife conservation grew as Spirit's success demonstrated the tangible results of rehabilitation efforts. Companies began sponsoring sanctuary programs, particularly those focused on developing new rehabilitation techniques based on the Ambassador Program's findings. The sanctuary established the Spirit Conservation Initiative, a program dedicated to applying lessons learned from Spirit's case to global wildlife protection efforts. This initiative funded research, supported rehabilitation centers, and promoted innovative approaches to wildlife conservation worldwide. Research conducted at the sanctuary led to new understanding of animal intelligence and emotional capacity. Spirit's ability to recognize and respond to other bears' emotional states challenged traditional views of animal consciousness, contributing to evolving perspectives on wildlife conservation ethics. The impact of Spirit's story continued growing as more rehabilitation centers adopted Ambassador Program principles. His journey from victim to healer represented a powerful narrative of transformation and renewal, inspiring hope for wildlife conservation efforts worldwide. The ripple effects of his influence were creating lasting change in how humans approached wildlife rehabilitation and protection. 3 years after Spirit's rescue, an extraordinary development unfolded at the Montana Wildlife Sanctuary that would redefine the boundaries of wildlife conservation. A revolutionary collaboration between the sanctuary and leading robotics engineers resulted in the creation of advanced environmental enrichment systems, inspired by observing Spirit's natural behaviors. These innovations would transform rehabilitation practices for trafficked wildlife worldwide. The sanctuary's partnership with Silicon Valley technologists led to the development of smart habitats, intelligent enclosure systems that could adapt to an animal's psychological and physical needs. Spirit's interactions with these systems provided invaluable data, helping engineers understand how technology could support natural behaviors while promoting healing from trauma. David returned to document this groundbreaking integration of technology and wildlife rehabilitation. His photographs captured remarkable moments of spirit engaging with interactive enrichment features, demonstrating how innovative technology could enhance traditional rehabilitation methods. These images showcase the perfect balance between artificial support and natural behavior. The smart habitat system, first tested in Spirit's enclosure, included sensors that could detect stress levels through behavioral patterns and physiological indicators. This technology allowed caretakers to optimize rehabilitation programs in real time, providing unprecedented insights into the recovery process of trafficked wildlife. International conservation experts gathered at the sanctuary to witness Spirit's interaction with these new systems. His ability to naturally incorporate technological elements into his daily routines while maintaining his wild instincts challenged traditional assumptions about wildlife rehabilitation. The success of this approach led to new standards in sanctuary design worldwide. The sanctuary's research team made groundbreaking discoveries about bear intelligence through Spirit's engagement with problem-solving features in the smart habitat. His ability to understand and manipulate complex enrichment systems demonstrated cognitive abilities far beyond what was previously attributed to bears, leading to new perspectives on animal intelligence. NASA scientists became interested in the sanctuary's work, recognizing potential applications for their space habitation research. Spirit's adaptation to artificially enhanced environments while maintaining natural behaviors provided valuable insights for designing systems that could support life in artificial habitats while preserving natural instincts. The integration of technology into wildlife rehabilitation sparked a global movement. Sanctuaries worldwide began incorporating elements of the smart habitat system, creating a network of technologically enhanced rehabilitation centers. This evolution in sanctuary design marked a new era in wildlife conservation. Spirit's influence extended to artificial intelligence development. His interactions with adaptive enrichment systems helped programmers create more sophisticated algorithms for understanding animal behavior. These developments had far-reaching implications for wildlife protection and ecological research. The sanctuary established a dedicated research center focusing on the intersection of technology and wildlife rehabilitation. Scientists studied how Spirit's successful adaptation to enhanced environments could inform the development of more effective rehabilitation programs for other trafficked animals. Corporate investment in wildlife conservation increased dramatically as the potential for technological innovation became clear. Companies specializing in environmental technology began developing new tools specifically designed for wildlife rehabilitation. Inspired by the success of Spirit's case, the sanctuary's education programs evolved to include modules on technology and conservation. Students learned how innovative solutions could support wildlife recovery while maintaining respect for natural behaviors. Spirit's story demonstrated how technology could enhance rather than replace traditional conservation methods. International wildlife organizations began incorporating technological elements into their rehabilitation protocols. The Spirit Standard emerged as a benchmark for integrating technology into wildlife recovery programs, emphasizing the importance of maintaining natural behaviors while utilizing modern innovations. The sanctuary developed new training programs for wildlife professionals, focusing on the effective use of technology in rehabilitation. These programs emphasize the importance of understanding both animal behavior and technological capabilities, creating a new generation of conservation specialists equipped to face modern challenges. Spirit's adaptation to enhanced environments influenced the design of wild animal corridors and protected areas. Conservation planners began incorporating technological monitoring and enrichment features into wildlife passages, creating more effective systems for protecting and studying wild populations. The success of the Smart Habitat project led to the development of early warning systems for detecting wildlife trafficking activities. Networks of sensors and AI-powered monitoring systems, inspired by the sanctuary's work, helped law enforcement agencies prevent wildlife crimes before they occurred. Research conducted at the sanctuary contributed to the development of new theories about animal adaptation and resilience. Spirit's ability to thrive in a technologically enhanced environment while maintaining his wild nature challenged existing beliefs about wildlife rehabilitation and conservation. The sanctuary's work attracted attention from environmental design specialists who saw potential applications for urban wildlife management. Spirit's case demonstrated how thoughtfully implemented technology could help wildlife adapt to changing environments while preserving natural behaviors. International cooperation in wildlife protection strengthened as sanctuaries worldwide adopted similar technological approaches. The sharing of data and experiences created a global network of innovation in wildlife rehabilitation, with Spirit's case serving as a founding example. The integration of technology into wildlife rehabilitation sparked important discussions about the future of conservation. Spirit's success showed how modern innovations could support rather than detract from natural behaviors, opening new possibilities for wildlife protection in an increasingly technological world. As the third year of Spirit's rehabilitation concluded, his influence continued growing in unexpected ways. His journey from victim to pioneer in wildlife rehabilitation technology demonstrated the endless possibilities when human innovation aligned with respect for natural behaviors. The impact of his story was creating lasting change in how humans approached wildlife conservation in the modern era. 4 years into Spirit's remarkable journey, the Montana Wildlife Sanctuary unveiled its most ambitious initiative yet, the Wilderness Connection Program. This groundbreaking project, inspired by Spirit's extraordinary recovery, aimed to create a revolutionary approach to reintegrating rehabilitated wildlife with their wild counterparts. The program would challenge conventional wisdom about the possibilities for animals rescued from trafficking situations. The sanctuary's expansive property underwent a dramatic transformation, with the creation of a unique transitional zone where rehabilitated bears could interact with wild populations under careful monitoring. Spirit became the cornerstone of this innovative program, his behavior providing crucial insights into how formerly captive bears could reconnect with their wild heritage. David returned to capture this unprecedented experiment in wildlife rehabilitation. His photographs documented remarkable moments of interaction between Spirit and wild bears who visited the sanctuary's boundaries. These images revealed complex, social behaviors that scientists had never before observed between rehabilitated and wild bears. The Wilderness Connection program introduced sophisticated monitoring systems that could track both physical and behavioral interactions. Environmental engineers developed unobtrusive observation methods that allowed researchers to study natural behaviors without human interference. Spirit's comfort with these monitoring systems helped validate their effectiveness. International wildlife experts gathered to study the program's unique approach. The sight of Spirit confidently engaging with wild bears while maintaining his rehabilitated behaviors challenged long-held beliefs about the permanence of captivity's effects. His success opened new possibilities for wildlife rehabilitation. Worldwide, the sanctuary's research team discovered that Spirit displayed sophisticated social skills in his interactions with wild bears. He seemed to understand the delicate balance between his role as a rehabilitated animal and the natural wariness of his wild counterparts. This behavioral flexibility provided new insights into bear intelligence and social adaptation. Urban wildlife. Specialists found unexpected applications for the program's findings. Spirit's ability to navigate between rehabilitated and wild behaviors offered valuable lessons for managing human-wildlife interactions in expanding urban areas. His case demonstrated how animals could adapt while maintaining their essential nature. The program's success led to the development of new protocols for wildlife release programs worldwide. The Spirit Gradient method, emphasizing gradual transition through carefully designed interaction zones, revolutionized approaches to wildlife reintegration. Sanctuaries globally began adopting these innovative techniques. Conservation organizations incorporated lessons from the Wilderness Connection program into their broader wildlife protection strategies. The understanding that rehabilitated animals could maintain connections with wild populations while serving as ambassadors for conservation created new possibilities for wildlife protection efforts. The sanctuary established specialized training programs for wildlife professionals focused on facilitating natural interactions. These programs emphasize the importance of understanding both rehabilitated and wild animal behavior, creating a new generation of conservation specialists equipped to support wildlife reintegration. Spirit's influence extended to scientific research on animal cognition and social behavior. His ability to navigate complex social situations with both rehabilitated and wild bears challenged existing theories about animal intelligence and adaptability. These insights contributed to evolving understanding of wildlife rehabilitation possibilities. The program's success attracted attention from international media, bringing global awareness to wildlife trafficking issues. Spirit's story demonstrated that with proper support and innovative approaches, even severely traumatized animals could reconnect with their wild heritage. This message resonated with audiences worldwide. Educational initiatives at the sanctuary evolved to include live observation sessions of wilderness interactions. Students witnessed firsthand how rehabilitated animals could maintain connections with wild populations, learning valuable lessons about resilience and adaptation. These experiences created powerful connections between young people and wildlife. Conservation. The sanctuary developed new technologies for studying wildlife interactions without human interference. Remote monitoring systems and AI-powered analysis tools provided unprecedented insights into how rehabilitated animals could successfully engage with wild populations. These innovations transformed wildlife research methods. International cooperation in wildlife protection strengthened as the program's success demonstrated new possibilities for rehabilitation. Sanctuaries worldwide began developing their own wilderness connection initiatives, creating a global network of innovation in wildlife reintegration. The program's impact extended to policy development as evidence mounted for the potential of rehabilitated wildlife to maintain natural behaviors. Policymakers who witnessed the program's success became strong advocates for expanding wildlife rehabilitation efforts and protecting natural habitats. Research conducted through the Wilderness Connection program led to new understanding of animal social structures and communication. Spirit's interactions with wild bears revealed complex social behaviors that had never been documented, contributing to evolving perspectives on wildlife rehabilitation possibilities. The sanctuary expanded its volunteer programs to include specialized training in wilderness interaction observation. Volunteers learned to document subtle behaviors and interactions between rehabilitated and wild animals, contributing valuable data to ongoing research while gaining unique insights into wildlife behavior. Corporate support for wildlife conservation grew as the program demonstrated tangible results in wildlife rehabilitation and reintegration. Companies began sponsoring sanctuary initiatives, particularly those focused on developing new approaches to supporting natural wildlife interactions. As the fourth year of Spirit's rehabilitation concluded, his influence continued expanding in unexpected ways. His success in navigating between rehabilitated and wild environments demonstrated the remarkable adaptability of wildlife and the importance of innovative approaches to conservation. The impact of his story was creating lasting change in how humans approached wildlife rehabilitation and reintegration. 5 years after Spirit's rescue, the Montana Wildlife Sanctuary celebrated a milestone that would become legendary in wildlife conservation history. The Spirit Legacy Summit brought together conservationists, scientists, and wildlife advocates from across the globe to witness the culmination of an extraordinary journey and launch initiatives that would transform the future of wildlife protection. The summit showcased the profound impact of one bear's journey from chains to champion of conservation. Spirit's story had evolved from a tale of rescue to a catalyst for revolutionary changes in how humans approached wildlife rehabilitation and protection. His legacy now extended far beyond the sanctuary's boundaries, inspiring global movements in conservation. David's final photographic exhibition at the summit, titled Spirit's Gift, captured the remarkable transformation not just of one bear, but of an entire field of wildlife conservation. His images chronicled the journey from that first discovery in the forest to the creation of groundbreaking rehabilitation programs that would benefit wildlife for generations to come. The sanctuary unveiled its most ambitious project yet, the Global Wildlife Rehabilitation Network. This innovative platform would connect wildlife centers worldwide, sharing data, techniques, and resources developed through Spirit's case. The network promised to revolutionize how rehabilitation centers collaborated and evolved their practices. International leaders in wildlife conservation presented research showing how Spirit's case had influenced rehabilitation practices worldwide. Studies demonstrated that sanctuaries implementing methods developed through his rehabilitation had significantly higher success rates in treating traumatized wildlife. His influence had created a measurable impact on global conservation efforts. The summit highlighted the creation of specialized veterinary programs focusing on wildlife rehabilitation psychology. Universities had begun incorporating lessons learned from Spirit's case into their curriculum, training a new generation of wildlife veterinarians equipped with deeper understanding of animal trauma and recovery. Technology companies showcased advanced monitoring systems developed through studying Spirit's behavior. These innovations had evolved into sophisticated tools for wildlife protection, helping authorities prevent trafficking while supporting rehabilitation efforts. Spirit's case had bridged the gap between conservation and technological innovation. The sanctuary's research team presented groundbreaking findings about animal intelligence and emotional recovery. Spirit's journey had provided unprecedented insights into how traumatized wildlife could heal and thrive, challenging traditional timelines and methods for rehabilitation. His case had expanded scientific understanding of animal psychology. Educational programs developed through Spirit's rehabilitation had reached millions of students worldwide. The summit celebrated the launch of a global conservation education initiative that would bring these programs to schools across 6 continents, inspiring young people to become active participants in wildlife protection. Corporate leaders announced the creation of the Spirit Conservation Fund, a billion-dollar commitment to supporting wildlife rehabilitation centers and anti-trafficking efforts globally. Spirit's story had demonstrated the value of investing in wildlife protection, attracting unprecedented private sector support for conservation initiatives. The summit featured the inauguration of the Spirit Sanctuary Network, a system of connected wildlife refugees designed to provide safe havens for rehabilitated animals while supporting research and education. This network represented a new model for conservation, combining rehabilitation, research, and public engagement. International law enforcement agencies presented data showing how methods developed through Spirit's case had helped combat wildlife trafficking. Improved rehabilitation protocols had strengthened prosecutions, while advanced monitoring systems had enhanced prevention efforts. His legacy had strengthened wildlife protection worldwide. The sanctuary announced the establishment of the Spirit Institute for Wildlife Recovery, a research center dedicated to advancing the science of wildlife rehabilitation. This facility would serve as a global hub for developing and sharing innovative approaches to helping traumatized animals recover and thrive. Indigenous leaders shared how Spirit's story had influenced their communities' approaches to wildlife conservation. Traditional knowledge combined with modern rehabilitation techniques had created powerful new methods for protecting and rehabilitating wildlife, demonstrating the value of integrating different conservation approaches. The summit concluded with the launch of the Spirit Promise, a global commitment to revolutionizing wildlife protection through collaboration, innovation, and compassion. This initiative would coordinate efforts worldwide to combat trafficking while supporting rehabilitation and conservation programs. As participants reflected on Spirit's journey, his impact on wildlife conservation became clear. From a bear found chained to a tree, he had become a symbol of hope and transformation, inspiring changes that would benefit wildlife for generations to come. His story demonstrated the extraordinary potential for positive change when humans chose to act with compassion and determination. The summit's closing ceremony featured a live feed from Spirit's enriched habitat, where he continued serving as an ambassador for wildlife conservation. His presence reminded participants that behind every policy, program, and initiative were real animals deserving protection and care. His legacy would continue inspiring efforts to create a world where wildlife could thrive free from exploitation. David's final photograph captured Spirit in a moment of peaceful interaction with a newly rescued bear, symbolizing the continuing cycle of healing and hope. This image would become an enduring symbol of wildlife conservation, reminding people worldwide that every animal deserved a chance at freedom and dignity. As the sun set on the summit's final day, participants departed with renewed commitment to wildlife protection. Spirit's journey from victim to pioneer had transformed not just one bear's life, but the entire field of wildlife conservation. His legacy would continue inspiring positive change for generations to come. The Spirit Legacy Summit marked not an ending, but a beginning, the start of a new era in wildlife conservation, shaped by the extraordinary journey of one remarkable bear. His story would continue inspiring people worldwide to work toward a future where all wildlife could live free from cruelty and exploitation. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.